Running Sentences presents Miles to Go, Part 3. Rolling Onward. Hiram finds himself in a pickle of a situation, and escaping to the next town is the only idea that he can come up with. This story is written and narrated by Michael Hiram. It is a work of fiction, so any names, characters, businesses, events, and situations within the story are products of the author's imagination. Any resemblance to real people, situations, characters, businesses, events, and or fictional businesses, characters, events is purely coincidental. Copyright 2026, Michael Hiram, all rights reserved. With George slumped over him, Hiram lay there for a moment, trying to think. The man's face was right next to his, and he had to twist out of the way to avoid it. All this shit was uncomfortable as he started trying to push this man in this parking lot off of him. "Did I do good?" The sound of Jimmy's voice was a welcome one, but it also meant a little bit of trouble. He'd done something to this George, though he could try and claim it was trying to stop him, but cops never looked kindly upon anything that meant paperwork for them. "I think so. What did you do?" Hiram asked. "Hit him with my fist." "Where, Jimmy, where?" "Back of the head. Seemed like the right spot, though my hand now hurts like a son of a bitch." George's unconscious body slumped to the side as Hiram got it off of himself. He then quickly felt for a pulse for the man and found it. With a sigh of relief, he slowly got to his feet. "Sorry to hear it hurt you. Thank you for helping me out, though. I don't know what I would have done without you." "Glad to be of service. Does that mean I get more money, though?" Jimmy asked, a little too eagerly. "Yeah, it would certainly be the thing to do. But for your safety and my own, we should leave town, skip the next one, and I'll pay you when I think we're safe." "You could pay me now." "Or I could do that and let you run the gambit of trouble you'll find yourself in thanks to security cameras." Jimmy looked up the wall and noted that there was a camera that kept scanning the area. "At least to the edge of the town?" "Yeah, you can leave there if you really want to, and I'll pay you." "And what about this guy?" Jimmy asked. "I say we leave this mysterious man here, and we run for it. No good comes from bringing him with us, nor, well, leaving him here, for that matter, would probably not be any good either, but it is much less worse if we leave him here." "Good call. Are you gonna call the emergency hotline?" "Yes, I think that's a good thing to do." Hiram signaled that they should head back to the car, while he quickly called that hotline and left a quick message before hanging up. They got to the edge of town with no real hurry, and easily enough. Hiram pulled his car to a stop next to the sign that said they were now leaving, and looked at Jimmy, who was sitting in the back, staring out the back window. "Everything okay?" "Yeah, just thinking about it and kind of making me worried, that is all." "That sign says it's 100 miles to the next town. You sure you want to get out here?" "Huh?" Jimmy finally turned around and looked surprised to see that they'd stopped. Hiram had an envelope in his hand that looked rather stuffed with something, but it was closed. "You wanted to get out of here. I'm willing to let you keep going with me if you think it would be better." "You really don't mind?" Jimmy asked. "It would weigh on my mind if you chose to get out here. I'm worried that your friend who decided not to come with us, and he might get blamed for what happened in the parking lot of the hotel." "Oh, don't worry about him. He never trusted anyone and is always finding his way out of situations. Doesn't matter, though, now. I think we need to keep moving." "On to that next town, then? Or the one after that?" "Let's just see where things take us, okay?" With a shrug, Hiram gets the car moving again, hurrying it down the highway. True to his words, Hiram made sure that Jimmy was paid and wound up dropping him off one town over, and that homeless man had insisted on just getting out there, saying he hadn't felt comfortable traveling any further with him. To that, Hiram merely nodded along and then drove onward to the next town, arriving there at the late night. He found a hotel that had a parking garage and found a spot, though oddly enough there was the security guard that had followed him from the booth as he got out of his car. "It's rather late for a traveler to be coming here, Mr. Traveler," the security guard pointed out. "It's a long road between towns and it caught me out. Is there a problem, sir?" "Well, I need to make sure that you're okay baby staying at this hotel." "You run security checks, security guard, on the people who stay at the hotel?" The guard grinned, hands on his hips as he nodded yes. "The hotel doesn't know it, but I keep the riffraff out." "You don't work for the hotel, then?" "We have an arrangement," this security guard said with a smile. But Hiram didn't really trust that. "Doesn't really sound like that at all, according to what you just said. But I'm willing to pay to make you go away. So will you take that offer, or am I going to have to keep traveling through the night?" Hiram demanded to know. With narrowed eyes, the guard looked over him carefully. "You're paying people off?" "I have the money to do so, which means I'm probably good enough for this hotel. Just let me go." This did not win over the guard. "I don't know. I think this might need to be reported to the authorities." Hiram stared at this security guard, dumbfounded. "Wouldn't that ruin your whole illegal operation? Assuming it's illegal, you can't be approved to do background checks on anyone who just wants to stay here." "Get out of here before I call the police." With a roll of his eyes, Hiram turned around and began walking back towards his car, the footsteps of the guard following him the entire way. Getting into that driver's seat, Hiram took a moment to get settled in. He was about to get the car started when there was a knock on his driver's side window, which made him jump. He knew the guard was following him, but not that close. Looking over, he spotted that guard standing there with her hands on their hips, right by his car. If he wanted him to leave, then why was he standing right there? Rolling down the window just a smidge so that it was open enough to talk through, he looked over expecting some sort of conversation, but there was silence. "Do you want something?" "You haven't paid your parking fee." "I would do that at the booth at the entrance. I'm not even sure how much a few minutes parked at this garage is going to cost, but it probably isn't worth this hassle," Hiram responded. "Pay up, or you don't leave, mister." "Step away from my car." "Sir, step out of the car now." Hiram started the car and moved the stick so that it read reverse. He was going to back away from here one way or another, and he didn't much care if he hit this man. "Get away from me and my car." "Sir, you do not have permission to do anything," the guard said. "Are you trying to arrest me?" Hiram asked, confused, since he was told to leave, yet now he was being detained or he wasn't allowed to leave. What the fuck was even going on? "Yes, I am. Public decency arrest." "On what charges?" Hiram quizzed, still not sure where this was all going. "Failure to follow orders." Hiram let his foot off the brake and the car gently began to go backwards. The security guard raised his fist to pound at the window, but decided hopping out of the way was a better option since he was sandwiched between another car. "I'll see you at the booth." "Goodbye," Hiram told him. Window was quickly rolled back up as he pressed the gas so that he could reverse quickly. With the guard now out of the way, mostly, he was just going to get out of there. A minute later, and before the guard could really do anything, Hiram had pulled up to the security booth guarding the exit. There was another tired-looking worker sitting inside it, who quickly took his ticket and looked over the computer, then hit the button to raise the barrier. "No fee. You haven't stayed long enough for that." "Thank you, but I should warn you that, there is a mad security guard or someone who's claiming to be one who's going to come running down here any second now." "Chuck? Yeah, we know him. Better get out of here." With a tired nod, Hiram pressed the gas and looked in his rearview mirror. There was indeed an angry guard coming running down the garage towards it. But since he was in a car, no big deal to get out onto the road and simply drive away. Hiram drove around town for a good 20 minutes before he found a commuter parking lot and pulled into it. He was very tired and didn't want to put himself at risk of crashing his car, so he pushed his driver's side seat as far back as it would go and let his tiredness take him away. Sleep lasted longer than he thought it would, as there was a knock on the window that had woke him up. His first thought was that security guard from the parking garage had finally caught up to him, but the sun streaming into the car became his main concern as he wiped sleep away from his eyes, as apparently the late night had disappeared into the morning. "Excuse me, sir." Yeah, sorry. Give me a second, will you, please?" "You get 2 seconds before you have to answer some questions." Now back in reality, he tries to roll down his window only to find it stuck slightly. With a sigh, he looks at this cute young woman wearing a police officer's uniform and standing right by the door, which wouldn't allow him to open it. "This window broke. Can I open the door, please?" Hiram requested. She stepped back, hand on her gun, keeping a careful eye on him. Frowning to himself, Hiram does his best to keep calm, but this really wasn't going the way people should be treated for what was probably a minor crime, one that could be excused since he'd done the right thing and found a safe spot to get off the road to fall asleep at. "Get out of that car, carefully, please," this police officer demanded. "Have I done something wrong to offend the local police?" He asked this as he opened the door and raised his hands to show he wasn't doing anything wrong. With his foot, he pushed the door fully open so that he could get out. "It's against local ordinance to sleep in your car," she replied. "I'm sorry, I had a long trip to get here and I'm merely passing on through. I can pay your fine and move on, no big deal, okay?" Hiram said, hoping a simple solution would work. "The fine is to spend a day in jail for your offense." That seems a bit much and weird, but it is what it is. Am I to follow you to the station?" "It's right across the way. Lock your car and follow me." He did as he was bid to do, getting out, fully, kicking the door shut, and he slowly reached into his pocket for the key fob to the car, all accomplished, while he followed her. His jailer came to a stop at the police station front desk, where another officer sat, going through some papers. They didn't look like the usual type of person who did this sort of work, but their confused expression on their face belayed that point. Relief washed across it when they looked up and saw that officer and him. "Ah, Jules, you just went out? What's going on?" "I found this man sleeping in his car in the commuter lot across the way." The man leaned over as Officer Jules was blocking most of the sight line for him to see Hiram. "Is this true, mister?" "I was sleeping in the safest spot I could find after being run out of the hotel parking lot." "Oh, did you run into that security guard?" the desk officer asked. "I did. He demanded I pay him after I had just arrived and said I wasn't good enough to stay at the hotel attached to the garage." The man behind the desk nodded and then looked back over to Jules. "Well, this is a complicated matter. Do you really want to proceed, officer?" "I have no reason not to, Marty. He broke the law." "Is it a fine and staying the night in jail or just staying the night in jail?" Hiram interrupted them. "A night in jail, sir. Get you off the road and all that, even though you were already off the road," the desk officer said. "The town elected to enact that rule, and we must follow through on it, gentlemen. Now is not the time to break rules and laws. Things must be followed," Officer Jules demanded. "Sorry, mister, but the officer has said her piece." "Oh, I don't really mind, as long as my car isn't moved while I stay in jail for the day. Though, I have to ask, am I staying for the entire day today? I mean, it is morning, I guess? Or do I get to leave later tonight, or do I have to wait until tomorrow morning? How does all of this work? You're staying until the morning. A background check will also be conducted on you to make sure you're not guilty of any other crimes. Hiram nodded slowly yes, as he considered his options. As far as he knew, he didn't really have a record, which was either going to be suspicious to this cop, so they wouldn't let him go, or something else would come up. He erred more towards the side of going to cause him problems later. But there was little he could do right now. Maybe if he was lucky, her shift would be over and not have time to really get into him before he was let go. Or maybe she was too busy to look into him. Both seemed unlikely in his mind, so he merely nodded along. I guess lead the way, officer. Don't try anything. I have to pat you down and make sure you're not carrying anything. You will also need to turn over all of your valuables and items on your person over to Marty here. With a nod, Hiram emptied his pockets. All that contained was the wallet, car keys, cell phone, and a multi-tool that looked like it had never been opened up. She then proceeded to pat him down a bit, but found nothing else. Having been led to a cell, a big one, that didn't have anyone else in it, Hiram sighed in relief. There was some peace and quiet to be had, though there was either the floor or the bench to sleep on. Neither was great, but he soon laid himself out and got some sleep, only to be woken sometime later by banging on his cell bars. As he looked over, he saw the officer from before. Wake up, scum! Once again, a lovely lady waking me up. What a great day to be alive. He slowly rubbed his eyes and shifted from lying on the bench to sitting on it. Officer Jules was at the cell door, glowering at him. I take it I've done something wrong, judging from your heated expression. Who are you? She demanded to know. You have my license and ID, so I think you can find that out with the tools you have at your disposal. She glared at him from beyond the locked cell door. You know what I'm talking about. You don't exist in any records. I don't see that as being my fault. Your computers can't come up with an answer. Why are you blaming me? Because everyone has a record, even if it's just a birthday. Jules growled at him. Well, I do have one of those. It's on my ID, though. I don't really pay much attention to it, but it's there. You don't have one according to our system, and you don't exist according to our system, yet you have IDs from this country? No foreigner should be able to get their hands on these. Hiram gave a shrug. Hospital or government mistake, then. Whatever it is, can't really answer you since someone else caused this problem. Well, I cannot release you until these matters are sorted out, Officer Jules explained. And now it is my problem, Hiram said with a sigh. It was always your problem. What's going on with you? Scrambling up to his feet and over towards that door, he held out his hands in a gesture and tried to say he was innocent. Nothing is, apparently. I was born as Hiram, and that's all I've ever really been known as. My parents gave up on me when I was about 7, and I've never seen them since. A sad story if I've ever heard one. That doesn't sound true. This Officer Jules snarled. Yes, it is the way of my life and has gone, but it is what it is. A very sad story. But I can't control any of that, or what is or isn't recorded by the government. Hiram said, hoping he was not going to realize he wasn't replying to the lie part. Then you're stuck here until I get in touch with some government officials who have information. And how long is that gonna take, miss? I don't know. They're busy tracking down the random person who's spending all of that cash on people, so they don't have the resources. Feeling his heartbeat hurry up a little bit, Hiram did his best to keep a straight face. If he really was being kept here, then there was a good chance that the government would come to ask him some questions. He didn't have time, nor did he really want to answer any questions from any of these fools. They only thought one way, and it was to lock up anyone who did anything different than what they liked. Wait, isn't it against your statutes to keep me locked up? You said that the sentencing for this crime I committed was to stay a night in jail. Wouldn't you need a judge's approval before you did anything else?
She frowned in response and then said,
I'd have to ask my boss about that, but I can do what I want. I don't need prior approval. You should go check with your boss on that matter. I'm sure he'd rather not deal with a person who isn't in the system, although I guess technically I am now.
Hiram pointed out teasingly.
Shut up. I don't have to do anything you say. But you will look good in front of your boss for asking questions about things and making sure you're doing the right thing. Do you speak just to hear yourself say the same thing over and over again? Do you have a bone in your body that tells the truth?
Officer Jules asked.
All of them, if they could speak. Currently, though, only my teeth allow me to help make these words, telling the truth, which I have already told you. You haven't told me anything. Officer Jules was getting really annoyed with him and glowering and spitting at her words. Yes, exactly. I can't tell you anything if I don't know what's happened to my records. It isn't my fault. All I want to do is be on my wary or merry way. The officer, looking very tired and done with this conversation, shook her head. I will be back soon with some answers. You won't give me them, but I will get them. Okay, good luck. She backed away from the cell door and continued to glare at him all the way to the exit door. He kind of watched going up to his own cell door as she slipped away. Part of him was curious if she'd done something like unlock the door to test him or cause problems. He felt it was a long shot that sort of thing would occur, but his mind came up with the idea, and now that he was near the door. What a weird situation. All I want to do is leave this dreadful town and head back out on the road. Eventually, a different deputy or officer came and got Hiram and led him to the lobby once again, where there was a group of town cops stood around and one state trooper-looking one, a different enough-looking uniform to make them stand out anyway. Hiram was brought before them and looked around at the group. I suppose I should say hello,
he said as he looked over these cops.
You're the man everyone's been looking for, sir,
the one who retrieved him said.
Me? That doesn't sound right. I've never been wanted in my life. Just ask my parents, who sent me away. Sir, you don't exist. We couldn't do that even if we wanted to,
another officer said.
As I told the cop who arrested me, gentlemen and ladies, none of this is my fault, and how does it make me the man people are looking for? People are looking for the man who has money, paper money, that he can pass out. You met that descriptor,
the one who got him out of the cells said. But
not the previous descriptor,
Hiram said, and then carried on.
So we are at odds, aren't we? What other description? What are you talking about? Another officer yelped out. Oh, right. Well, I think Officer Jules mentioned, or someone told me, of a description of a man that they were searching for. Might have mixed things up in my end,
Hiram said and frowned to himself, realizing he might have mixed and said things he should not have.
You're an odd one. Run into the cops a lot who randomly give you descriptions of wanted criminals?
Another cop said, this one an officer-looking one?
No, Officer Maris, according to your badge. They simply said they were looking for a man who fit such and such a description, saying he was wanted for questioning. Since I hadn't seen that person, I could not help out,
Hiram said.
And where was this? A couple of town over, I think, Trooper Rod. I was merely passing through and didn't catch the town name. The questioning and odd looks he was getting from this group of cops wasn't exactly making it feel like he was doing a good job of getting through to them. Nope, it felt bad, really. Why would we even trust that? We searched your car, by the way, and several dollar bills marked 20 in the trunk
were found.
This came from the officer with the name tag Bucky.
Though he saw Hiram looking at that tag and then quickly
slapped his hand over it and gave him a little glare. My emergency money, gentlemen, in case I get into an accident or lose my wallet. You took it?
Hiram asked.
You're a suspicious person. We had to take it. This was from the state trooper, Rod,
the one who'd retrieved him,
who said this. He wasn't exactly hiding his name tag, really only said Rod. Not exactly helpful, and he was in that different sort of uniform, but it would do for the moment as Hiram tried to sort everyone out. There were far too many of them, even with only 3 of them speaking to him. But you only think I look like the person you want. You have no evidence to hold me on.
Hiram ventured, though the look he got from the cops was not a good one.
You said it yourself. You're traveling through towns. That's more than enough for us to detain you, Officer Maris offered. Because I'm traveling? That's your reasoning? What kind of thought is that? It is more than enough reasoning for us cops. We get to suspect you merely for being in this area, and now you fit our needs, so we get to ask you a few questions, like where you got that money.
Trooper Rod questioned.
I withdrew it from my bank account, Mr. Trooper Rod. How'd you get that sort of thing when you don't exist? Banks don't like things that don't exist on paper already,
questioned Officer Bucky.
Or how'd you even get an ID? Officer Maris said. I walked into a building that does driver's license, presented my papers when my turn came, and they gave it to me. After I paid the appropriate fees, of course. As for the bank, it was a similar sort of thing. You expect us to believe that?
I don't know, Officer Rod.
You're the police and can do whatever you want. I'm merely your prisoner at the moment. Though, why are we in the lobby of the station? Waiting on transportation. To where, Mr. Rod? Or should I call you Trooper Rod? What is your name?
Hiram questioned. The holding cells.
To the state jail. Until we get to the bottom of this, you're our prisoner, Mr. Hiram. Hiram wondered how true that actually was. It felt like a lie to him, or that something was missing from this cop's statement. But what it wasn't exactly coming to his mind. You can't just arrest me. We have probable cause. That's enough for us cops. You don't get a say in this,
Officer Maris pointed out. I get a lawyer so that I can get a say, though. That's how this is supposed to go, officer.
You only get that if we let you get that. And right now, since you aren't cooperating, you don't get access to such niceties,
Officer Bucky informed him. The sound of a door opening drew a lot of attention from the fellow officers who looked over, as a burly-chested man in a sheriff's uniform stepped out into the lobby, glaring at the lot of them.
I agreed to let you use this lobby to do your business here, but you're taking too long. You got windows and citizens can see the lot of you acting in an ill manner,
the town sheriff growled.
Sheriff Oscar, we do have to do it here. We can't be seen in public arresting people. And I was proud to let you do it, Trooper Rod, but you're taking up too long and can already be seen by the public. There is a crowd gathering outside, and I've gotten calls in my office. This needs to leave my department now, the sheriff said. Excuse me, but I think this is a little very illegal. Shut up, Mr. Hiram. No one cares what you have to say. Hiram span about to face Officer Maris, who'd said this. He really wanted to punch him for it, or to do something, but he couldn't get his mind to settle on a single idea that would get revenge for saying such things without him actually getting arrested. Stop talking to someone you're arresting like that, Maris. The judges will throw you off the case and out of their courts if you keep that up. They'll never find out, Sheriff.
No, Officer Maris, the sheriff is right. We don't need things thrown out because the suspect says we don't treat them well enough. There are enough security cameras around here to make sure that people are actually treated fairly, Trooper Rod said. Yes, there are, Trooper. Now please leave with this man in your custody, the town sheriff Oscar demanded. Weren't we waiting for the transportation to show up though, Rod? Officer Bucky asked. We are, but we have our orders. Everyone outside. We'll deal with the gawkers and watchers like we usually do. It shouldn't take too long for transportation to come anyway. Hiram was then hurriedly handcuffed in the station lobby and then pulled out the door. It was a surprise when, in fact, there were actually quite a few people out on the sidewalk. The moon was high in the night sky and it felt cold, and it was pretty much nighttime. Hiram wasn't entirely sure, since he'd forgotten to look at the clock on his way out. There was a flash of some cameras and shouts from the crowd that drowned out all of his thoughts. Listen, people. We're dealing with a very devious criminal here. We don't need the public creating a scene out of all of this, Trooper Rod announced to the crowd. I am the victim of the cops, this trooper and everyone else who joined in on this. They're deciding my fate before a trial or an arrest has even really officially happened. Shut up, Hiram, Officer Maris shouted at him. Please ignore this man. He is completely unstable. This Hiram man does not know what he's saying. Officer Bucky's comments only drew even more people to press in close so that they could take photos or see what was going on. Hiram was trying to blink away the flash dots that were taking up his vision. Please, ladies and gentlemen, now is not the time for this sort of crowd gathering. What are the lot of you doing out this late anyway? I thought this town had ordinances against people being out late, Trooper Rod said, trying to corral the crowd. Who is this guy? Why are you arresting him? Someone in the crowd shouted. We already said his name is Hiram, and he's accused of having paper money, Officer Maris said. Wait, the guy with money spending and giving it away to people? I think I saw him in his car over there at the parking lot. His car is still right there, another person from the crowd shouted out. This was followed by a voice from a third person. Maybe it has money in it. Hell yeah, let's go see the money for ourselves. Another voice joined in, though. It sounded like the first one who had spoken up from the crowd. Hiram felt the grip on his arms relax a little bit as the officers all looked between one another trying to figure out what to do. He guessed that they were trying to figure out if the car was evidence or if, like they'd said, it had been searched before. They didn't look like they wanted to risk it though, and there were moments paused as they all staring at the sight before them, before another officer spoke up. Man, I could use some cash right about now. I think we need to go over there and stop them, Officer Bucky added. Yes, we do, Bucky. Hurry up. Let's get that car secured. No one should be able to tamper with the evidence or grab money before we can get it. As Trooper Rod said this, all the cops equally moved towards the car that a group of people who had been around them were now rushing towards. To Hiram's surprise, none of them had a hold of him, and he just stood there watching. He hoped that they would fail to notice or think about him, which seemed to be the case. A moment later, with all the cops headed off, he began backing away towards the other direction, away from this whole mess. End of part 3 of Miles to Go. Thank you for listening.